Start here, start now. This is Pastor Scott Conway at QX Church. Find us online at qxchurch.org. We only have here and now. No matter what we do, no matter when we do it, no matter where we are when we do it, it's always a here, it is always a now. Present moments are all we really have in which to take action. We can plan action for the future. We can reflect on action from the past. But to do something, we do things in the now. We have no place to start but here. We have no time to start but now. Our heres and nows are constantly shifting. As we work our way through the river of time, we have a never-ending series of heres and nows for the duration of our life. And what we can do with those heres and nows is finite. Whatever we do, whatever here we have at the time, whatever now we have this now in the moment, and that's the only place we can do anything. And it's very easy to keep putting things off and figuring we always have it later, and to occasionally reflect on the past and think, oh, if only I knew then what I know now. I could have this and I would have that. But could have, would have, should have, I can't do anything different, even for a minute ago, even for this morning, even for my opening words of this message. That's done. I've walked past that. I have here, I have now. And in the here and now, I can plan for the future. But ultimately, when I take that action, I will take that action in the coming here and the coming now. Big things intersect heres and nows. If you consider how brief a moment is, and eternity intersects in that moment. Eternity intersects our lives in a here and now. One of the most profound examples of this here and now intersection is salvation. Jesus created our opportunity to spend eternity with Him in heaven in a here and now. That opportunity for us to be reconciled with God, the whole flow of human history and our ability to intersect and interact with eternity pivoted through a moment of history. And my ability to be a Christian, my ability to have a relationship with God, my relationship with Jesus only exists because at some point in history, God Himself said, I will create this moment. And from this time forward, this possibility will exist. And that moment that we accepted Christ our Savior happened in a particular here and now. In the twinkling of an eye, we shifted our eternal destination by saying yes to God. There was a moment in my life where I wasn't a Christian. There was a moment in my life where my outcome for eternity was going to be whatever was totally fair, given who I was and what I was doing in the flesh. And then in the twinkling of an eye, with the utterance of a prayer, with the shift in my faith, in trusting Jesus in whatever moment that shift took place, my eternal destiny was sealed in a moment shift. Here's and nows can be infinitely powerful. Great shifts happen in the here and now. At a much lesser scale perhaps than eternity, but in those that ripple through our lives and sometimes through human history. A here and now was the moment we first talked with someone who maybe went on to be that special person. Maybe that special person in the form of a romance. Maybe that special person in the form of someone who led to a job which changed a career, which maybe even changed the city you lived in. The special moments where a question was asked and answered and everything pivoted around that moment. And sometimes we have no idea which moments those are. Sometimes we have no idea when our destiny is being queued up, and how many tiny pieces might be connected to that. Here and now, for all of us who are married, a here and a now was the moment we asked for her hand. A here and a now was a moment when we said yes. I'm doing a wedding in a couple of weeks. And in that particular here and now, a single man and a single woman will then be one couple. And that will happen in a particular here and a particular now where that shift takes place. At one point he asked. At another point she said yes. Somewhere in the mix, he got up the courage to ask her out for the first time. And she said yes. All of these shifts that take place pass through heres and nows. And sometimes we have no idea which ones will carry what significance. Here and now is when we said I do. 2 weeks from now, in a here and now, this couple I'm doing a wedding for will say, I do. Here and now is when we conceived our first child, starting with what may be a new, permanent bloodline. Now, in my particular case, I may not have any biological children. Admittedly, I do have some interest in what I call philosophical children, people who learn the things that I wish to teach and pass on to the next generation. But for every one of us that was born, there was a particular moment where we were conceived. For every child, there was a particular moment where a biological mother and a biological father came together in a way that produced a child. And whether they intended to produce a child and they were trying to, or whether it was just a byproduct of what it was they were trying to do, that in a twinkling of an eye, you now have a bloodline. That if this child grows up, and that child has a child, that means that in that one particular moment where that child was conceived, it wasn't just a baby, it was a bloodline. That baby would be a child, that child would be a teen, that teen would become an adult, that adult would have other relationships and perhaps give you grandchildren, and the bond that you form in that moment can last a lifetime and ripple through the generations in a particular here and a particular now. Everything, bit by bit, big and small, passes through a here and now. One of the things I sometimes see people do is treat their heres and nows as though they're infinite. But we have a finite supply of heres and nows. Now I'm on the top half of my century. And so if I live to be 100 years, I'm more than halfway through. I'm over 50. So you can imagine it's not at all uncommon at my age that a lot of times when we're beginning to get news of people that we know, there's illness involved, sometimes death involved. And that we're running out of our heres and nows. At this moment I'm recording this, I'm 54 years old. And my heres and nows have probably expired by maybe half-ish. Statistically speaking, probably more, maybe less, and potentially all of them. If I go to celebrate a friend's birthday today, there's no guarantee I'm going to make it all the way up there and all the way back. My heres and nows could come to a sudden end. Someone might have thought they'd accept Christ on their deathbed. So they feel okay leading a hedonistic life. And then they run out of town. Maybe an accident, maybe a heart attack. Takes them suddenly, or their mind fades. And they can't make decisions. Or someone might have thought that they'd have time to have a family later. And later got so late that conceiving a child of their own was no longer an option. Obviously that particular one more of an issue for the ladies than for the gentlemen. But even for the gentlemen, I mean, I'm 54. If I was married and we conceived a child today, I would be a 55-year-old father of an infant. Now, if I make it to 100 years old, I would die when my kid was 45. But what if I don't make it that long? What if I make it a much more typical 70 or 80? That my child could lose their father much younger. And I have to think about things like that. How much can I keep up with a kid if I'm in my 60s, if I'm in my 70s? Now, in my particular case, I'm pretty healthy for a man my age. I'm remarkably fit for a man my age, so I might have a good chance. But we have to think about some of these things. That I've had 54 years of here's and nows come and go. Someone might have thought that they'd have time to get to the kind of work that truly inspires them. And they got caught up paying the bills, climbing the ladder. And they found that they didn't even like who they had become. There was a lawyer story. And if you don't already know, I'm also an attorney. But the lawyer story was there was this young man, fresh out of law school. He really wanted to do some kind of world-changing kind of law. He wanted to get into environmental law, but the kind of environmental law that really doesn't pay much money. And he figured, like, okay, but I need to, like, pay off my debts and kind of get ahead a little bit. So he took a job with a law firm. And he married his sweetheart, and they go, okay, well, we need to buy a home, and we need to kind of get ourselves established and grounded, and so I need to pursue this work full time, and I need to advance, and I need to keep moving my career forward a little bit, just so that we can get all of this paid off, so that way I can have the freedom to go do what it is that I want to do. To be that man that she fell in love with. They have to do this first. Well, before they got too far down that path, a child's coming, and then a second child, and then he's paying for a nicer house and a better neighborhood where the good schools are, and he's doing the work so that he can get the nice car that has all the safety features to protect his wife and his kids. He's working more. He's getting up to the level of a junior partner so that he can finally do what he wants to do. And in particular, and this part's huge, she fell in love with a man with a vision. And he has become a career lawyer, doing all the good lawyer stuff. When I would go home, I would have to get in this habit of mentally take off the lawyer, putting off the old man, in my case, putting off the lawyer, and putting on the new man, in my case, putting on the husband. And I would literally do that. Every once in a while, if I was having a mental struggle with it, I would literally get out of my car after I parked on the street, and someone would see me take off an invisible cloak of some kind and throw it in the car, and I put on an invisible coat, take a deep breath, and settle into husband before I walked in that door. Because lawyering your wife is not really conducive to a good relationship. For whatever reason, household members don't seem to like to be cross-examined. They don't seem to like to have their arguments and their day kind of picked apart and the facts all looked at and the facts challenged and the difference between an evidentiary fact and hearsay evidence, all that picked apart because that's where my headspace has been all day long. They want a husband. They want a dad. They don't want the household attorney. And this man had become that attorney. That's who he was. That's what made him so good at his job. He didn't have this tool of take off the lawyer, put on the husband, take off the lawyer, put on the dad. He was a lawyer, and he was good at it. And he's sitting in this men's group, sobbing, collapsing out of his chair with several of the men in the circle totally relating to what he's talking about. That he just found out his wife was leaving him. He wasn't the man that she had fallen in love with. He wasn't the man that she could live with anymore. And he didn't blame her because he didn't want to live with himself either. He did not like this man he became. He didn't like the man he was inspired by to become this lawyer. He wasn't that young man. And it was not the issue of the youth. So he got caught up. Always figuring he had time. And that time kept getting pushed back, and he ran out of his heres and his nows for his wife and his kids. And he lost his wife and his kids. They ran out of heres and nows. And the wife and the children kept waiting for a here and a now where they would be important. They kept waiting for a here and a now where this man would seek to be more than a paycheck, where he would seek to be a husband, he would seek to be a dad. And he always intended to, but he ran out of heres and nows. And his family kept waiting until they gave up on the heres and the nows. And they were ready to move on. Now, for all of us, death ends our earthly heres and nows. So whatever we're going to do, we need to do it. I'm going to do a little interlude here because this part's important. Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it. Sometimes we get caught up talking about things. And this was a related discussion I was having just earlier this week. When you talk about your goals, you talk about your vision, you talk about what you're going to do, a few things happen. For one, you quite reasonably create an expectation in the people you talk to. When you tell them what you're going to do, you tell them what's coming. You tell them what your plans, what your intentions are. And especially if you speak it not as a thing I'm exploring, you speak it as, this is what we're doing. This is what we'll have. You create an expectation. And then when people watch, they're watching to see how well you fulfill that. And then if you don't, they see, oh, you're one of those people. You talk the good talk, but there's no follow through. Now here's part of what happens too often. When we get in the habit of sharing our vision, and this happens in the church all the time. Oh yes, I've got this call from God, a sensing call from God to do this or do that, or go on this trip, or fulfill this full-time ministry position. And there's commendation in the church. There's a group of 10 young men came up in front of the church to share with the congregation how they've been called by God to full-time ministry. Of those 10, one of them actually went into full-time ministry. One of them. And he stayed in full-time ministry his entire life. He died a pastor with over half a century of experience. Still pastoring in his 70s. The other 9, they got their applause, they got their prayer, they got their commendations and their handshakes and the pats on the backs and the attaboys. But when it came time to do the work, when it came time to follow through, that kind of fell by the wayside. Only one actually followed through, who I suspect, just guessing, probably really was called by God, and thus felt the inspired drive forward to continue in the work. Some percentage, I would like to think 0, could be all of them, but some percentage probably were driven by an emotional hype. Because here's part of what happens. We get this kind of endorphin hit, this flash of pleasure that strikes us when we get an attaboy for some great vision. Sometimes we just get it internally to ourselves when we think about all these great things we're going to do. But at some point, it gets time to actually invest in the work. And the work's not usually quite as much fun as the story. And then there's expectations, and then it gets hard, and then the reality sets in, and it's really, really easy to just not do it. Although I'll get to it. Just, right now I've just got a lot of things going on. And the here's and the nows get pushed off until it's so far away that the accumulation of the course and the momentum of the here's and the nows heading in a different direction almost locks you out of that. And people will do that over things that they themselves declared, sometimes before a congregation, was a call from God. So just know our here's and nows may run out. Our here's and nows may take us in a completely different direction. Our here's and nows may accumulate with putting off a thing until that thing that at one time inspired us seems so far away and so difficult to do. Because we've given ourselves credit and perhaps gotten social credit from the ease of sharing the story without having to do the work. Now, particular here and now, a life-changing course of events may start or end by surprise. We've talked several times in the last few weeks about the parable of the talents, both versions, the Matthew version and the Luke version. Matthew 15, verses 14 through 30, Luke 19, 12 through 27. A particular opportunity dropped in their laps, in a particular here and now. The servants were all given huge sums of money by a boss. The boss was leaving town. Did they see this coming? Did they know? Was it a surprise? Ready or not, it's here. Ready or not, it's time. They had a here and now with a financial opportunity to demonstrate their stewardship, to demonstrate their financial acuity, their financial alacrity. What can they do? What do they know? What do they see? What do they understand? What can they pull off? And whenever they found out it was happening, maybe they saw it coming and there was time to learn something. Maybe they didn't see it coming. The boss shows up one day and says, okay, guys, I got to leave town. Not sure when I'll be back. But I'm going to give you guys some money to do some work while I'm gone. In the Matthew version, again, I'm going to give you 1 talent. I'm going to give you 2 talents. I'm going to give you 5 talents. You guys should be able to handle that. I'm out of here. In the Luke version, he's sharing some larger sum of money that apparently was uniform across several servants. But still in that story too, 3 of the servants are highlighted. Might have been a surprise. Their here and now moment happened perhaps by surprise. And when that happens, you better already be ready to play. In each version, one of those servants wasn't ready. They panicked. They shrunk from the task at hand. They hid from the opportunity. All they could think of to do in their fear was hide the money and hope that not losing it was good enough. But then the boss came back. Now did they know when the boss was coming back? Was it on some kind of a schedule? Did they know what was going to happen? Did they have a particular amount of predictable time? You have a year, you have 2 years. Was word sent ahead so that they would know when they'd have to be ready? That they found like, oh, boss is coming back in 30 days. We just got the message. Or did he just show up one day? And there's an announcement. Boss is coming up over the hill. He's almost here. We don't know. That's not included in the story. So it could be any way. It's possible that they had to be in a perpetual state of readiness for the boss's return. They had to be ready for here to be right here, and now to be right now. And when their here and now showed up, when it was time, one wasn't ready. He wasn't ready to get the money at the front end. He wasn't ready for boss to come back at the back end. Other than, he hid the money. That was his plan. Give back the boss what he gave me. I didn't lose anything. He hadn't done anything. Did he know? Maybe, maybe not. The others were ready. Both versions tell us that two of them had done very, very well. In the Matthew version, the one with the 5 talents had doubled to 10. The one with the 2 talents had doubled to 4. And the one with the 1 talent just kept it. In the Luke version, one of them had 10-folded the money. It's like, I take off, I leave you $100,000 to do business with, and by the time I come back in town from however long I was gone, you've made that $1 million. The other one had made $500,000, and one of them didn't even put the $100,000 in the bank to get a little bit of interest, but instead went and hid it in the mattress, or folded it up in a napkin if you want to be more biblically precise. But they were ready. And in the Luke version, they were ready to show what they had accomplished, that they had multiplied the boss's money, and the boss put them in charge of cities. They showed they were ready to receive the funds. They showed how well they could manage the money, how they could manage whatever business they did to multiply the money. And the boss was using that as a litmus test. If you can manage this, if you can be faithful in the little, if you can logically extend past what I know you already know to figure out how to do this and be a great steward of this and make sure you take care of my assets, I will now put you in charge of whole cities. Because the principles of this scale of management are reflected in the principles of that scale of management. This scale of stewardship is reflected in that scale of stewardship. And that when you show me you can do that, I'm going to put you in charge of this. Faithful in little, faithful in much. And to think about the idea that this pivoted through a particular here and now. One day the boss showed up, and whether it started on that day or not, at one day he made the announcement, and one day they knew. And their here and now happened right here and right now in their world. And when it came time to check in, whenever that boss came back, there was a particular here and a particular now, and now what have you done? And becoming the governors of cities pivoted through those moments. Opportunity showed up, and they were ready. So luck is when preparation meets opportunity. It's Thomas Jefferson quote, "The more prepared I am, the luckier I get." Opportunity passes near whether you're ready or not. We may call it lucky when you get an opportunity you're prepared for. But being ready isn't luck. Being ready is preparation. Opportunities will come and go. Sometimes you're in a position to avail yourself of the opportunity. And sometimes you're not. If you get a job offer and you're not ready for it, you're not qualified for it, that's not lucky. If you find the partner of your dreams, the man of your dreams, the woman of your dreams, and you aren't ready to be his dream or her dream, that's not lucky. You want to be ready for the opportunities that you want. In particular, you want to be ready for the opportunities you're praying for. Because you are asking God to hand you an opportunity. So if I ask God for $1 million, is God likely going to just materialize $1 million of gold coins or $100 bills in the middle of the floor right here? Not likely. I haven't seen it. Never even heard of that one. But is it possible that if I've been praying for $1 million, that God might put me in a position where I might have the opportunity to begin the business process to earn $1 million? That's possible. In my world, in my understanding, in my insight, in my observation, that's more possible, more likely. In fact, if God says yes to $1 million, I believe most of the time, God will say yes in the form of, here's an opportunity, that's the path, your $1 million is right up there on the top of that hill. Get going. And that you'll have an opportunity to learn the skills. You'll have the opportunity to get the training. You'll have the opportunity to build the team. You'll have the opportunity to take the risks, to work your way up in that direction. And if you're paying attention, as much as you will have to do the work, as much as God may tax you to the limits of your ability, and even let you go bankrupt again and again and again on your path there, that is a potential path through which God said yes. But there's going to be work. And if you are praying for it, be prepared to make your choices and take your actions in the string of the heres and the nows, so that you are ready and you are getting ready for that which you are praying for. And even all those things that you just want. Now, opportunity might be near. Opportunity might be far. So since opportunity might be near or far, let's take a look at some of what that could mean. Well, opportunity could fall in your lap, meaning you don't need to do anything to get it. So if you were one of these servants, at one time the boss walks in and says, here's some money, do something with it. The opportunity fell in their lap. They were working for the right boss. They were employed at the right time. And the boss drops an opportunity in their lap. And you don't have to do anything to get it. It's not common, but it does happen. Unfortunately, the business particulars escape me at the moment, but it was one of those famous names, and I don't want to cite the wrong name. But he was looking to wildly expand his business, and what he wanted to do is take leaders out of his existing business, train them to be executives, and basically up-level everybody who was already working for him. And this is what he did. He gathered them all up one day, and he kind of explained the opportunity. He covered what it would take and what, so you could count the cost, what the cost would be as far as their time and their effort and their work, and how their day would be split up. So they're still doing that work, but they're learning how to do this other work. And they would become executives when they were done. And he gave them all of the information, and at the end of the presentation asked them, so yes or no? And everyone who said yes got in the program. Everyone who said no didn't get in the program. Seems pretty simple and straightforward, right? Well, the next day or two, and over the course of the week, several of these men came back and asked if they could have the opportunity because, they had talked it over with their wives and that they had decided. And he said, no. You already had all the information you needed. I asked you for a decision. And what I'm looking for in executives is people who can make decisions once you know everything you need to know. Had you said yes, and then started the next day, and you found out that you weren't cut out for it, you could have stood down. But we've already started. You don't get to step in late. Those are not the kind of executives I'm looking for. opportunity got dropped in their lap. And a lot of them did not know what to do with it. They weren't ready. It scared them. Now, opportunity could drop in your lap. Opportunity could pass within arm's reach. Now, what we mean by arm's reach is meaning that you do need to take action. You need to do something to grab this opportunity. And if you don't, it'll just pass you by. But the action is pretty obvious. The action is pretty clear and typically simple. It could be someone lets you know that, oh yeah, I have a friend who has this job opening and you're perfectly qualified for it. And all you need to do is make a phone call, set up an interview, go interview, and the job's yours because your friend and the business owner have already talked and you're already the guy. But you do have to take some action. Sometimes an opportunity could pass within arm's reach. It is as simple a thing like if you're a kid and the neighbor says like, oh yeah, my lawn needs mowing. I wonder, do kids still mow lawns these days? And you're a kid and you haven't, but you could. I mean, that's pretty darn close to dropping in your lap. You just have to take a couple of steps. Find out if you have the equipment. Find out if they have the equipment. Ask a few questions. Inquire as to the dollar amount they're offering. Negotiate a fee. Only a few steps. Pretty simple, pretty clear. Opportunity could be a short walk away. Meaning you have to go out of your way to get in position to avail yourself of it. That's not going to be just super easy. That might be the process of applying for a bunch of jobs. That might be the beginnings of trying to start a business, but you find there's all these administrative steps. But right now I'm working with some friends to get them set up to start their business, and part of the administrative steps I'm working with them on is getting their seller's permit and getting their fictitious name license and getting their checking account set up and getting their merchant account set up and the wholesale accounts for the vendor set up and all of these pieces that still need to be done. That I would consider a short walk. It's effort. There's things that need to be done. And kind of sitting down with them and coaching them and kind of being a consultant to help them see how to structure these things because there's some work to do. There's some standard operating procedures to kind of give some thought and put together because it's not as simple as just being an employee. And so I call that a short walk. There's work. And it's not always obvious, and sometimes you find out the things that need to be done because you got in trouble for not doing them. But it's doable. You can do it. You can get up and get it done. You can talk to some people who've been there, done that, and sort it all out. Short walk. Opportunity could fall in your lap. Opportunity could be within arm's reach. Opportunity could be just a short walk away. But opportunity could also be a journey. It could be a journey away. Maybe a short journey, maybe a long journey, but a journey. Meaning you have to make plans. You're going to have to make plans. You're going to have to take action toward the goal of getting to the opportunity. Now, kind of in between on one is a friend of mine's wife had an opportunity to get a significant, impressive promotion, but it was going to require that she move cities. That's a little bit of a journey. I would consider that honestly a short journey because the things that need to be done are relatively clear. So the fact that she would have to move, relocate her home, her husband would have to kind of wind down part of his business and keep serving the clients he can serve remotely and set up in a new place. And so there's a bit of work to do and a whole bunch of collateral things that need to be addressed because of this. But it's doable, fairly short journey. But sometimes it's a long journey. Sometimes it's a go back to school journey. Finish your degree. Move city, start a brand new business. Go get a string of 3 jobs, one after another, to go learn about an industry. Taking seminars, going through a one-year mastermind to learn all the skills to lay a foundation, apprenticing with somebody before you go out and try it yourself. There are things that can be a significant journey, and that you can spend years just laying the groundwork to take your shot. And it's possible that opportunity might be nowhere around. It might not be anywhere near you, ever, period. And you might have to just take a look at what pieces you have and build your own opportunity out of nothing. But you look around, I don't see anything. I look at the aptitudes and the things that I know I could do, the fairly clean paths, and I don't see anything. I sit down, I talk to people who might know, I talk to coaches and consultants, I go to the seminar, I read the book, and I got nothing. And sometimes you have to craft your own opportunity out of whole cloth. Sometimes you just have to take the ones you've got and see if maybe, possibly, you can break through over here or break through over there and take a crack at something. And sometimes you end up in this place because the opportunity you thought you had didn't play out. You worked it, you pressed it, and just couldn't get there. A friend of mine and I periodically will talk about like professional sports players. And what if you're kind of on the path and then you blow out your knee? And it's never going to be 100% again. Now what? And sometimes you get stuck in that place where the opportunities you thought you had turned out to not be there. I mean, maybe they were there for a while, but something happens and now that's done. And you have to look around and figure out, well, what else can I do? And sometimes there is nothing. Whatever you're going to do, you're starting at square one and you have to build this new thing. And sometimes that's how opportunity is. What you have is the opportunity to build an opportunity. Because opportunities include the opportunity to journey to opportunity. You are already immersed in a great many opportunities to do a great many things. I mean, literally, if you think about, what am I going to do today? And you were going to ask 100 people, what could I do today? Do you think they could give you some ideas? Do you think they could give you dozens of ideas? Hundreds of ideas? Even a simple thing, well, you could watch this program. You could go to that movie. Oh, you could go visit this park. If you're even just asking for, well, what could I do for recreation? If you ask for, well, what could I do for work? Do you think that there's a couple of dozen job opportunities out there? A lot of them may pay minimum wage. A lot of them may be commission only. But there's opportunities. That if there are no parameters, you literally have an infinite number of opportunities. There is no end to the choices you could make. Other opportunities are an action away, a pursuit away, a journey away. But right here, right now, you have the opportunity to move toward any of these. Like even right now, at 54 years old, if I decided, well, I want to be a surgeon. So I go, well, what's your educational background? It's like, well, I have my bachelor's degree, I have my law degree, I have a seminary degree, my doctorate's from a seminary. I say, well, the seminary degree is not really going to help you in medicine. The legal, a little bit, maybe a little bit. But you're basically looking at having to take some predicate classes for a medical school, maybe for a year or two. And then if you can get into a medical school, 4 years of medical school, you have to do a residency. If you want to be a surgeon, that's going to be 5 years. But it's doable. If you're willing to invest 11 years and become a surgeon at 65 years old and start practicing medicine between 65 and 70, that's doable. You could. You still have time if you're healthy enough. It might be unusual to do at my age, but it's doable. I know someone my age who was an emergency medical technician and went back and became a nurse in his 50s. And now he's a practicing nurse, works in the emergency rooms because, that's what he learned to do as an emergency medical technician. So now as an emergency room nurse, he is highly qualified for that position. You can make big changes later in life. So right here, right now, you have an opportunity to move towards something. And the further away you get, the more opportunities you have if you're willing to do the work to walk to those opportunities. You can pursue something in earnest, meaning you get up and you get going. You know what it is and you can go in that direction. If you're already an emergency medical technician and you know that you know a whole bunch about this that the nurses also know and you have some experience the nurses don't have, I can move in that direction. I have clarity. I can go now. Or you can investigate something. You know, like, well, I don't know, but what I do have the opportunity to do right now is start looking. Investigate. Find out what it'll take. Explore the path and what it would take for you to walk that path. You can make small steps. You can make a decision and steadfastly, powerfully move. You can do something part-time. You could do something full-time. You could dabble if you choose. You could sprint if you choose this. Yes, I'm doing that every day. I'm committing hours of my day to that. I wake up in the morning, I have 24 hours. I might have slept for 8 of them, make it 9 if I include getting ready for bed and getting ready to get going in the morning. Grab a bite to eat, off to work, lunch, dinner. I probably still comfortably have 4 hours a day. I could put 20 hours a week into a project if I want to sprint. And I may have my weekends too. I could potentially put a full-time venture on top of a full-time job if I'm committed to the sprint, because I don't want it to take up that much time. I want to do it. I want to get it done. That's an option. I could likewise look at my world and look at my life and go, okay, but you know, wife, kids, I don't have a lot of wasted time. I don't have a lot of net time, no extra time where I can just put something in. But I could still do 5 hours a week. I could still do 10 hours a week. Maybe I could do a few times a week, a couple of hours a night. I can move at whatever pace I choose. I have that opportunity to move toward opportunity. You can start with nothing. Look to your goal and start laying the groundwork to go in that direction. So that when opportunity shows up, your groundwork's done. If the boss shows up and says, here's some money, I'm leaving town, get to work, I'll check in with you guys when I get back. Well, when you can be back, boss? Don't know. But we'll see how you guys have been doing when I get back. And then you can be ready. And then consider your easy, obvious, often overlooked opportunities. We often overlook opportunities to connect with people. To connect with people, especially the ones we say are important to us. If our kids still live with us, we have ongoing opportunities to really connect. And sometimes when we get empty nest syndrome, some of the empty nest syndrome where people really, really feel that absence is because of all the things that we feel like we didn't do before the kids left the home. But while we've still got them, we have a chance. If we're married, we have ongoing opportunities to connect with our spouse. In fact, an interesting one on that is I was chatting with a wife, and most counseling that I do is with women. And that seems to be, from what I've seen, as a truism kind of across all coaches, counselors, therapists, and whatnot, is it seems to be the women that come in for the coaching, the women that come in for counsel, the women who come in for therapy. Personally, I think that might be a little healthier if more men were willing to come in and do the same thing. A lot of times you get men show up for couples counseling when there's like a crisis and the whole thing might be falling apart. They're trying to just get it to not fall apart. But when it comes to like people just wanting to move relationships forward, I talk to a lot of women in that regard. In this particular time, I was talking to a woman who was having some jealousy issues, some insecurity issues. Her husband was having these lively conversations with this other woman, and there was no romantic interest. And and even if her husband had a desire, there's none from her. But they had certain topics in common that the wife didn't share with the husband. And so, like, how do I handle that? Because she had enough clarity to think, well, I'm not going to tell my husband not to have these conversations with this wonderful woman about this thing that he likes and he's inspired by. But how do I deal with my feelings? It's like, well, your jealousy means you feel insecure. It's, well, I do. I feel like he's going to want to be with her more than he wants to be with me. It says, well, you also have unique access to your husband. You have a unique ability to connect with your husband that she doesn't have. He's going home with you. He's not going home with her. He's having a 20-minute chat with her. He lives with you. You have an opportunity to connect with him in 1,000 different ways that she doesn't even have the opportunity. How are you using those? And when the simple thing of she realized, like, oh, yeah, I should just use those. And just realizing that she had them made her realize, like, well, I don't need to master every single topic to have conversations with my husband. We have a whole bunch of topics that he and I can talk about better than the two of them or him and anyone else can talk about. We have a lot of things that we can do that he doesn't do with anybody else. I have an opportunity to be with him and connect with him in really 1,000 different ways. And just knowing that, like, fostered her sense of security, her stability, her certainty. And then she took action on that. So if we're married, we have ongoing opportunities to connect with our spouses. With everybody, we can touch base on social media, we can touch base by email, we could send a card, we could do that with any number of people. These kind of opportunities are always there, and we have constant opportunities to go do things. Constant opportunities to go have experiences, or to create special moments, even just for ourselves, and certainly with others. And this is in addition to any opportunities we ever have to learn, to earn, to do things of value and of service, to simply just stop and take a breath and enjoy a moment. The proverbial stop and smell the roses. Now, with all of the opportunities that surround us at all times, resources are limited, so you need to know your priorities. There's more to do than anyone can do. More to do than can ever be done. There's more to see, more to hear, more to experience, more to accomplish. There's more love, more to connect than any one human being can do in a lifetime. All of us have limits of time, limits of energy. We have varying limits of money. How much vibrancy can we get out of life? How much vividness, how much juice can we get out of life? That question is more a matter of leveraging into our priorities than it is having hypothetically infinite resources. In fact, many people will focus their time, focus their energy, griping about resources, and completely miss all the opportunities they have with the resources they're wasting. Because if I'm spending my time griping about not having money, and I'm investing my energy in griping about not having money or time that I'm spending griping, I'm missing out. I'm wasting time and I'm wasting energy accomplishing nothing. Now, are there times where we really need to vent? Absolutely. And in fact, when I'm counseling people, I will give them an opportunity to vent. And I have kind of a 3-circle rule. Is I'll let someone do the whole venting story, and there they go. The second time they circle around that story, I want to hear a little more clarity on exactly what the problem really is and what some potential solutions might be beginning to develop. And by the third time around that circle, what I really want to see is clarity around what the actual problems are and some solution ideas coming together for that. Some clarity about what the challenge opportunities are and some clarity about how to approach that. Then that's useful. That's moving something forward. That's getting it out so you can see it better. It's kind of like rummaging through it again to like organize it in your head so that you get some clarity on it, and now you can do something about it. But if someone's just going to loop and loop and loop and keep digging this deeper and deeper and spiraling down, that's not a good use of my time, even just as a counselor. And it's not a good use of their time as someone going through it. And when we get into those kind of habits, that tends to feed depression. That tends to feed overwhelm. That tends to feed hopelessness. Because we're not building our upward spiral to help us step out of it. So you need to know your priorities so that when you have time, you can leverage it into your priorities. When you have money, you can leverage it into your priorities. When you have energy, you can leverage that into your priorities and bring your time and your money and your energy and you get stuff done. So a key here, of course, is therefore, know your priorities. And if you don't already know your priorities, if you don't have like a values hierarchy worked out, I highly recommend do a values workshop if you don't already know your values hierarchy. And if you haven't done a values workshop for a while, those are useful to do. In fact, I recently did a renewed one, and there's been some shifts. Some stuff has dropped down, some stuff has moved up, especially if you've been through certain milestones in life. If you've gone from single to married, if you've gone from married to having children, if you've gone from married to divorce, if your business has changed, if your location has changed, or even just it's been some time. It might be time to go revisit your values and look at your actual reality values hierarchy. I mean, I was surprised by some of mine. It didn't surprise me at all that love was a top value. I expected joy to be number 2. But it turned out that I had 2 moving away values, things that I will seek to avoid more than I will pursue joy. One of them is opposition from partners. That I will sacrifice joy to get out of partnership relationships where I'm being opposed by someone that's supposed to be on my team. Not where they're disagreeing about how the team can win. That's not opposition, because there's ways to disagree as partners where we agree on the outcome. We're working together, we just disagree on how to get there, but the way you handle it is in partnership. And then another one that showed up that surprised me was unnecessary conflict. Closely related, right? And that the choices I will make so that I'm not having unnecessary fighting going on in my world, I'm willing to sacrifice a measure of joy to shift those relationships. And you go, that was a surprise. Now, joy then showed up at number 4. So I'm moving toward value, moving away value, moving away value, moving toward value. That was a surprise. And so doing a values workshop helps you begin to sort these things out. So you have here and now. And when you think about the potential significance of here and now, in a twinkling of an eye, a particular here and now translated us from mortal beings with an eternal destiny that was entirely and 100% fair to an eternal destiny that is completely unfair. That Jesus paid the price for us. He paid for it so that we get the plus of the deal and we don't have to have the minus. That we get a dramatically, powerfully positive, imbalanced deal. And that is a great deal. And that happened in a moment. every good thing and every bad thing in our lives pass through a here and a now, and we have a string of them, a finite string of them. And it is right here, it is right now. What are we going to do with it? Because all you have is here and now. Later you will have new heres and new nows. Whether you use them or not, they come and they go. What will you choose to do with the ones that you have? You are a whole person. Live a whole life. Include all of your priorities in your choice. And look to the heres and the nows you have right here, right now. The ones coming today, tomorrow, this week. And consider all these moments where life may pivot. Consider the opportunities you may have to step into something where you can make life pivot. I was watching a video of a father-son event. It was connected to a martial art. And as one of the exercises, the father would have to basically try to wrestle his way past and get past this jiu-jitsu instructor to get to his son. And and so the son was on one side, and the instructor's in the middle, and the father's there, and he's trying to do some stuff, and he's kind of pushing through. He's putting forth a good effort. And the son's saying things like, "Dad, I need you." And Dad's pushing through, and Dad's getting frustrated because it's a stupid drill, but the instructor has the son keep talking. And one of the things that struck me, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit here, is the son's idea of sometimes when I'm playing basketball by myself, I imagine you're there with me and that we're playing together. I want my dad in my life. And that kind of motivated the father a bit more. And then the instructor brought his daughter over and his wife over and basically laid it on the line. Your children want you. And they want you to do the hard thing to get to them. And the son saying, "Dad, I want you to be here for me." And man, the next round with that father. And he moved. He moved strong. He moved fast. And he got to his children. He grabbed them and he hugged them. Everybody was crying. Because there was something in him that shifted, that let him realize he's been letting too many heres and nows go by without letting his children know they're important. His children have had too many heres and nows go by without feeling like they were important and wanting their father. And the father realized what he was missing and what he wanted. Now maybe it is our wife. Maybe it is our kids. Maybe it's our business. Maybe it's our career. Maybe it's our friends. Maybe it's an activity we've always wanted to do and we just haven't. But if there's something you've been missing out on, you can make a choice in the here and the now to do something with it. If there's an opportunity you want, if there's an opportunity you've been praying for, are you ready for it? Are you ready for it? Are you worthy of what you want? Are you worthy of what you're pursuing? Do you know what to do with it if it shows up? Are you ready to make wise decisions, or would you just buy yourself into trouble? Are you ready to do something with it? Or is it just going to dissipate? Are you ready for the other person if you want a relationship with another person? If you're doing things now that's building a history, is that history going to help you, or is that history going to hurt you? Because every once in a while, your history comes back to bite your butt. And sometimes you don't want to get bitten. You're going to want to be able to sit down and rest sometime. But we have here, and we have now, and we have opportunity. Right here, right now, on this day, I've got a bright, clear, sunny day. I can see it right out there through the window. Right here, right now, I've got a friend who means the world to me, who's having a birthday celebration at a beach an hour to the north. And admittedly, this morning I was thinking, I gave her a birthday card on Friday. I'll see her again tomorrow. But, as I'm thinking about these here's and the nows and the priorities, I'm thinking, I may need to make that a priority. That this is the last birthday she's going to have before I move away. This might be my last opportunity to celebrate a birthday with her and her husband while I'm still here. I mean, I might still be around when his birthday rolls around, but I might not. What are your priorities? What are your values? How do you want to show up? And in the here's and the nows that you have, how are you going to leverage your here's and your nows to your own priorities? And keeping in mind, some of your priorities need to be your rest. Some of your priorities need to be your recreation time. Some of your priorities need to be your rejuvenation time, your recovery time. You can't just work all the time. So for the workaholics listening, just remember, I'm not talking about 24/7 work. How dare you waste time sleeping? Sleep when you're dead. But look at the people in your life too. The friends, the family, the loved ones. Look at the activities in your life, the things maybe you haven't done for a while. Like I haven't done a piece of art for a long time. And what in here do you want to cultivate? What will make you feel good about this day when the day is over? What will make you feel good about this coming week when the week is over? What will make you feel good about your use of the year when the year is over? When you have the fruits of the work that you've been doing? In my particular here, in my particular now, I'm wrapping up a lot of things. Next week's sermon is called That's a Wrap. Because it's my last sermon here. The day after next week's sermon, I lock this door for the last time, and we're done here. This building is being torn down. And I am not moving to a new building. The church is not going to continue in a new building. The dojo is not going to continue in a new building. I will be moving. And I don't know yet what I will be doing. I have foundations to lay. I have things to be ready for. I have an infinite array of opportunities that I'm looking at. I have my preferences, but I don't get to control those pieces. I have to use the pieces I've got to build an opportunity out of what I've got. Use a little creativity, a bit of artistry there. But I have a here and a now. And I have a week. And in 8 days, so much is over. That means more opportunity is available. And what will I do with it? It's a good question. It's one I'm going to be asking myself and answering. It's your here and now. And what will you do with your here and nows that will excite you? That you'll be proud of, that will bring you love and bring you joy and bring you peace and let you walk your life in God's blessing. Bless you.